I have a good friend of mine from Boston who has a special ritual he does each year for New Year's. He'll host a party, and all of us will be there in his living room. And at some point during the evening, he'll come out with a big tray of sand with a lit candle in the middle. And he'll give us all a scrap of paper and a pen, and he'll tell us, think about one thing you want to leave behind you in the new year, and write it down on this scrap of paper. Then come over to this candle, light it, and symbolically destroy it in the light of the new year. You can lay it down in the sand and imagine being freed of its influence as you watch it burn away to nothing. What a satisfying symbol to have, to mark this new year as a time of endings, a time of leaving things behind, a time where in one symbolic moment, the things we choose to come to an end disappear and vanish. It's a powerful ritual, and I was reminded of it as I was watching a couple of things this week. One of them was a new movie that you might have heard about called Marriage Story. It just came out on Netflix. And the other one was a TV show called The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And it was kind of interesting because I was just watching both of these as part of my normal entertainment diet. But coincidentally, both of them have as really central elements to their story the unfolding sequence of the main character's divorce. So the first one, Marriage Story, is about this married couple played by Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. Long story short, the movie begins in the early stages of the couple trying to get their divorce done without any lawyers, and then it chronicles step by step the escalation of the divorce process and how it finally resolves. It's a good movie, great acting. I think there's a bit of caricature on how mediators, lawyers, spouses, social workers, everyone basically acts in a divorce. But what did strike me was that the decision to end, the decision that the marriage would have an ending, happened before the events of the movie even start. And then the whole movie, the entire plot, is all about the unfolding process of that ending. Far from a dramatic moment where the decision is made and the deed is done and then poof, the marriage is gone, but rather a long, drawn-out, complicated human process where even the final act of divorce is not so much an ending as the beginning of the rest of these characters' lives. The second thing I was watching was The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and it's similar in that the entire series begins basically with the marriage coming to an end when the main character's husband leaves her for his secretary. So that leads the main character, Mrs. Maisel, to get drunk and unload her misery on stage in a nightclub, which ends up launching her stand-up comedy career, and that's what the rest of the series is about. But here, too, I thought it was interesting that the decision to divorce is just the beginning. And we watch Mrs. Maisel and her husband try to figure out how this divorce will work itself out, navigate their feelings for each other, find reconciliation and then unfind it, navigate jealousy, finalize their paperwork only to accidentally get married one weekend in Las Vegas. Here again, the ending is not one moment, and it's not the end. It's a series of moments and feelings and uncertainties and winding, twisty turns that overlap and fall back on each other. So I was watching these things, and I was thinking how different these long, complicated, messy endings were from the kind of decisive ending portrayed by my friend's ritual. And I guess it particularly stood out to me because I've been going through my own ending of a relationship over the past few months. And I've also been trying to navigate my own transition in my career. And all the while that this has been happening, I've so wanted and craved a definite ending, a clear, finite break, a thank you next, as Ariana Grande would say, something that would mark the moment in a way my friend's ritual could, a way to burn certainty and finality into the world. But life is not like my friend's ritual. In our real messy lives, we don't get to just close things like a chapter in a book and say, happily ever after, that's the end of it, ta-da. We don't get to write the things we wish to end and then have them magically vanish in a poof of flame and smoke. Things don't just end, and even when they do end, or we end them or try to end them, they're not just gone, they're with us. And we carry the unfolding of these endings in one way or another, often to the rest of our lives. So it got me thinking that maybe this ritual was focusing on the wrong thing. Maybe I don't want to imagine, or maybe sometimes it's not helpful to imagine taking the things I want to end and burning them into nothing. Maybe in life it's not that we're burning anything away into nothingness. Maybe we're not so much leaving anything behind. Maybe we're bringing everything with us, but forward in a new way where nothing's vanishing, nothing's disappearing. Everything is still with us, but somehow changing. And maybe burning it in 2 seconds is making us miss the point and miss an opportunity to live. Maybe the experience of life is fully lived by living in that unfinality, that uncertainty, the way things remain unfinished, and maybe it's okay to live in that space. Maybe we're meant to watch this movie or series in our own lives unfold like Mrs. Maisel's, with our own endings, and maybe that's the experience we're meant to have. Maybe in that ambiguity, that's where we'll find meaning, by sitting with the endings all the way through the ups and downs, and carrying it forward with us. So maybe instead of thinking of anything as an ending and becoming attached to and searching for decisive moments to mark it, we can think instead of each of these moments as moments of transformation, continuous, flowing into each other like water. And after all, that's what life is: transformation, change, growth. All moments are an ending. All moments are a beginning, and they're folded into each other in weird and complex ways. And here again, the passage from the poet Rilke that we read earlier is so apt. We compute the years and divide them, but how very much of one piece is everything we encounter, and how related one is to the next, how it gives birth to itself and grows up and is educated in its own nature. And all we basically have to do is to be there, but simply, ardently, the way the earth simply is, consenting to the seasons, light and dark, and all together in space. I still think that my friend's ritual is still helpful. I think it sometimes helps, as Rilke says, to compute the years and divide them, and I think it is important to mark time in those ways. But I also think that New Year's is a great opportunity to think of endings in a different way. We'll do my friend's ritual. We'll set intentions and wishes that we hope can end this year. What pain or suffering we wish to go away, or barriers or chains that hold us back, that we wish to dissolve, we'll make those wishes. We'll set those intentions. And also, we'll be fully present in our unfolding endings and hold that. And it's okay for them to be inconclusive. It's okay for the story we're in right now not to have a neat plot arc with a climax and a denouement. And we can live in that space. We can watch it. We can learn in it. We can play. We can grow. So as this new year unfolds, as we reach this threshold from one marking of time to the next, I invite you to think about what endings you're sitting in right now, what complicated stories are unfolding for you. Are there endings that have stretched for years and years and they're still not over? Are there endings that you sense are just beginning? Endings that have brought grief or pain? Endings that have brought relief? Endings that have brought comfort, joy? As we end this year, let us fully inhabit that space of endings. Let us be in that space in between. Let us be there together. Let us be there alone. Let us be however we must be. But let us be here. Amen and blessed be.